Okay, welcome to Beyond the Gates. I am Susan Wheeler and here this month with Bill Hemberger, of course, my co-host, and we're exploring Carlsbad. We're going to visit a couple of amazing museums, and Bill is going to take us right through Leo Carrillo Park. So let's get started. Well, I hope we have some music lovers at home today watching Beyond the Gates because you are in for a very special treat. I am here today in Carlsbad at the Museum of Making Music. And with us today is B.J. Morgan. Welcome, B.J.
Thank you, Susan. So glad to be here with you.
Oh, maybe you can just fill us in on how long this special place has been around and what it's all about.
I would be happy to. And thank you to all your viewers. I hope there are some music lovers out there.
There are.
The Museum of Making Music here in Carlsbad, we have been in the community for over 20 years. We opened in 2000 to the public. And our museum tells the story of the folks and the families and the companies that make musical instruments, the people and companies that provide those instruments, like music retailers, your local music shops, the artists that use those musical instruments and how they're used and the music that's created from those instruments, and also what it means when a musical instrument goes beyond its purpose of making music, like how it becomes a cultural icon or a place for sanctuary or an artistic element. So the museum's storyline is all about those people and processes that went into creating the instruments, why instruments change over time, how they evolve, how they get from the workbench to your living room.
Been here since 2000. And you've recently gone through a remodeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understood previously, I was told that this was a large, fabulous music museum in a very small space. But now it is not a small space any longer. It is an amazing museum in a very substantial space with a fascinating history. So, how large is the museum, and tell us a little bit about what people can see when they come in.
Absolutely. I'll give you a little bit of the inside facts about the museum.
All right.
So we are still an intimate museum.
Yes.
We're only 6,500 square feet. So compared to a lot of the larger museums you might find in LA or Balboa Park, I mean, those are extraordinarily large museums.
Absolutely.
We're still an intimate space, but the renovation was because we had originally told our story chronologically. And as you know, time never stops. And so in order to continue telling that story, we either had to build a larger museum, which was not very feasible in the current state of our property size, or refine the story that we already tell and to shift it from a timeline-based story to a thematic story. And so now when you enter the museum, what you can see is, I would say, about 500 different instruments on display that represent the changes on how people made those instruments. There is a small little time capsule that tells the story of music retailers from the turn of the century, from the 1890s up to about the present day. There is a panoramic gallery all about musicians and how they impact music making. And so that's a really emotionally impactful area where visitors can go in, and it's a 270-degree experience from floor to ceiling, this unique video presentation. So you're walking into the story, like the complete story itself.
Amazing.
And then at the very end, guests will have the opportunity to see several key instruments that we picked out that tell the story of how museum instruments become artistic canvases, or how they become morale-boosting instruments.
What do you mean by that exactly? Artistic canvas or morale boosting?
That's a great question. So case in point, when you look at a piano, and there's one right behind us, it's just there's nothing really intricate about it or opulent. And so The Steinway Company, this is one company in general that I'm using as an example. They have a series of instruments called the Art Case pianos, and they're unique in they have individual themes. One Art Case piano that I can recollect is based upon a Russian composer, Modest Mussorgsky, his composition called Pictures at an Exhibition. So it's a literal canvas that artists have used to paint pictures.
It's artwork.
It's artwork.
Oh, how fabulous.
Yes, wonderful. And so that is kind of an example of how an instrument has evolved beyond itself.
Right.
Another example is a Steinway Victory Vertical piano. And it was during the Second World War where a lot of companies had to ration their natural resources. They couldn't build the normal products that they were doing, but there was a few music providers that could still produce musical instruments, and Steinway was one of them. So they tooled this special piano. It was very, very sturdy, and it was sent to the front lines, and it became a place of sanctuary for those frontline troops. So it was becoming more than just an instrument, but a beacon of morale and community in a place that otherwise would not, was unhospitable.
Sure. So one can learn about all these things. You have little sort of cubbies, niches, as people wander around through the museum. Each one is devoted to a different instrument, and it's interactive. There's an instrument you can try playing there, but there are also videos that give you the history of that instrument. But in addition to that, I've noticed that you have many docents around too.
Oh, absolutely. Our volunteers are the lifeblood of the Museum of Making Music.
How many do you have here?
We have about 70 volunteers in total.
Oh my gosh!
And there's only, I think, 7 full-time employees here at the museum.
I have another question for you about your exhibits and the programs that you offer. As I look back through your catalog of some of the exhibits you've had over the years, it is fascinating. You've had 6 months exhibit on accordions.
Yes.
The history of accordions, hundreds of accordions, where they came from, different samples to look at. Other one that looked interesting was the Martin guitar. What do they call it? It's called the Dreadnought?
We had an exhibition all about the Dreadnought guitar.
Now, tell people about the Dreadnought guitar.
This story can be learned inside our newly renovated museum, and it was a quest for a louder instrument. So early guitars were smaller stature. They were called parlor guitars. They might have been played in your living room or in your parlor. And as stages grew, as bands grew, guitarists needed to be heard above everything else. And so Martin Guitar was one of the manufacturers who helped to develop the idea of having a larger guitar, solid bracing, and they came up with this large, big whomping guitar called the Dreadnought, like the battleship. I mean, it was a sturdy ship, and this was a sturdy guitar that could be projected over, large stages over for a lot of different audiences.
Right. All right. Tell us a little bit more about the hands-on opportunities here. I know things are very interactive. What's going on?
Yeah, that's probably one of the most fun attributes of the Museum of Making Music is not only can you see and learn about the instruments, but in every single gallery there's a sit and play area where you can pick up a guitar or a ukulele or try a piano out or a harpeggi. You know what a harpeggi is?
Actually, is that big box that you wave your hand and it speaks to you?
Close. You're describing a theremin. You can play a theremin though too.
Fascinating.
There's so many unique instruments that you can try out at the museum.
I had no idea.
A harpeggi, it's a flat table-like stringed instrument, and it has a row of probably about 24 strings, and you just tap on the strings. It's just like a piano. It's like a guitar-piano hybrid.
But you tap on the springs. Strings.
Yeah.
All right. Fascinating. Well, BJ, this has been just fascinating. This is a treasure of a place, and I certainly want to get on your mailing list and become a regular down here with your special exhibits and all you have going on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan.
So Bill, what are you up to now?
Today we're at the Leo Carrillo Ranch up here in Carlsbad, and I'm here with Sarah Kelly. And getting here reminded me of an old John Jakes book. It's called California Gold, and that's what this is. I mean, you must feel great coming to work every day. I mean, this is
wonderful place to come every day.
Now, it's called a park and a ranch. Is there a difference between the two?
Well, we are today a City of Carlsbad park, so we're
Okay.
part of the City of Carlsbad Parks and Recreation. But back in the day, this was a working ranch for actor Leo Carrillo.
Yeah,
So
tell us about that. How'd that come about?
Leo loved California in all ways, and after he made his money in movies, he bought the ranch in 1937 and kind of recreated that Californio time period.
Now, did he go back? Yeah, this is old California. Did he ever go back to Hollywood and say, "Hey guys, come up at the
You
film
bet.
my ranch"? Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't actually think there was a lot of filming that happened here, but he definitely brought a lot of his Hollywood friends down, and they would come and sort of play at being cowboys and enjoy going back to a simpler time here in
Sure.
California.
Now, it's a California landmark and a historic landmark. How did that come about?
We are on both the State of California Historic Site list and the National Historic Registry.
Did it happen at the same time?
You know, it's before my time here, so
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So it's probably paperwork that.
It was part of the original. I know when they opened the park, they were interested in making sure that people knew that it was a valuable historic resource here in California.
Now, when Leo bought, can I call him Leo?
Sure.
Okay. When Leo bought the ranch, was it a working ranch?
When he bought the ranch, it had sort of, belonged to the early homesteading family named the Kellys here in Carlsbad. They were no longer living on this site. They were using some of the land
In
for
relation
ranching.
to your name is Kelly.
Yes, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So Matthew Kelly and his wife Emily, I don't know my own history, homesteaded this ranch back in the day, and Matthew and Emily were my great-great-grandparents.
What are the types of buildings that people would see when they come into the park?
Yeah. So when you come into the park, one of the first stops is often the visitor center. That's a great place to start your tour of the ranch. We have a little overview video that you can look at and some exhibits, and there's staff there happy to answer questions.
Up beyond here is some stables, and I noticed a fake horse.
Amigo.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
Amigo? Now, can people bring their own horses here?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
We are, even though when you're here, you feel like you're kind of out in the country, we are actually within the city of Carlsbad and we have neighbors nearby. So we only get real horses here for special events, like sometimes we have Wild West festivals and things.
Yeah, and you don't want to have Amigo get, jealous.
Amigo
of
is
anything
so
like that.
good-natured, I don't think he would.
Who named Amigo?
Well, Amigo was named by staff, by vote. We had a lot of names in mind. Leo had beautiful Palomino horses during his lifetime. He had a horse named Conquistador that was very famous. And then he rode a horse named Loco on the Cisco Kid when he was on that TV show.
How long has Amigo been a part of the stables there?
Not very long.
Oh, okay.
He was a donation from one of our previous docents named Priscilla, and she gave us Amigo.
So she walked through here, no, you need a horse, and
Yeah.
she got you Amigo.
Yeah, that were for storage. Leo's carport. The cantina is here as well. He had a little space for his wife.
Let's just say he was married, wasn't he?
Leo was married to a woman named Edith. She went by Dee Dee. They had one child named Tony. She was actually Marie Antoinette, but she went by Tony.
Her real name was Marie
Her
Antoinette?
real name was Marie Antoinette.
She wasn't
Not to be
French.
confused with, no, I don't believe so. As you travel through the park, the hacienda is, of course, the gem of the park. It's a beautiful spot, but there are other buildings around it as well, including a cabana and a pool and a wash house, which was a place to change your clothes after you'd been swimming.
You must have classes around because there's a lot of kids around here. I mean, this would be a haven for kids.
Yes.
What kind of classes do you offer?
So we're about to start our summer camp season. Because we are part of Parks and Rec, we offer after-school enrichment classes and camps during the summer, all kinds of stuff. Everything from sewing to history kind of based classes,
Old
radical
California
reptiles
snowing
and friends.
or sewing?
No, just regular sewing, but it is a skill, it's kind of an old-timey skill. During the school year, we actually also invite every school that's within the geographic boundaries of the city of Carlsbad can come for a free half-day program, and they do a little bit of learning about the history and an art project that relates to that.
If somebody is coming from the village, can they get a private tour? Can you arrange for that?
So we do offer public tours on weekends. We're hoping to start those again very soon,
Okay.
COVID dependent.
Sure.
But we think we'll be able to start offering those again by the end of this month. And they're free at 10 and 1 every Saturday and Sunday wedding wedding dependent a little bit on Sundays.
Which was my next question,
Right.
weddings.
And then also groups can come. You're welcome to bring a private group and arrange for a tour, but those do cost a little money.
Sure. How far out should people plan if somebody has a granddaughter or grandson that wants to get married here? How far?
Yeah, getting
Years?
married here, at least a year usually.
Okay.
I mean, it's always worth calling because sometimes there are these little windows, but it's a very popular place to get married as well. So most weekends, especially right now, we have some delayed weddings due to COVID, so we're pretty packed this year.
Did Leo Carrillo own the ranch? What did he do before that?
Leo was very famous as an actor. He, over the years, he started on vaudeville and then was in plays back east.
Back east.
And then he came back home. He's from Los Angeles, so he came back during sort of the golden era of Hollywood. Started off in silent movies, moved to talking movies, and eventually was in over 90 films.
He was a character, wasn't he?
He was a character and a character actor. You would often see him as the second name on a bill. So there'd be the main star and then also starring Leo Carrillo.
But didn't he have an actor or a character he was famous for?
He was very famous later in life. In the 1950s, he was on a TV show called The Cisco Kid.
Oh, sure.
And he played the funny sidekick. So the Cisco Kid was played by Duncan Ronaldo, the very dashing Duncan Ronaldo. And Leo Carrillo played his funny sidekick, Pancho.
What are the hours of the park?
The hours of the park are 9 to 5 every day. So we are open every day with a few holiday exceptions. So we close on Christmas and a little early sometimes the day before Thanksgiving and things like that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure.
And now let's see what's happening in Susan's world.
When a man works with his hands, he's a laborer. But when a man works with his hands and his brain, he's a craftsman. But if a man works with his hands, his brain, and his heart, he's an artist.
Yep.
That is one of my favorite quotes.
That's
And that really, sets the tone for the whole museum. So Dave, it's a pleasure having you here today, and tell us a little bit about this museum. How long has it been in existence?
Well, the museum opened in, I believe it was January of 2011. It was opened by the founder, Joe Martin, who was the owner of Shoreline Products. Shoreline Products manufactures miniature machine shop equipment for hobbyists and industry, actually. Joe wanted to showcase works that were created by people, some being machinists, some being engineers, and some being just hobbyists. About 2008, 2010, he had the opportunity to buy this building, which was vacant at the time. He bought the building out of his own pocket. He outfitted it. They call it TI, tenant approval. He had the museum decked out. Started out with several showcases. Over the course of these years, they've added many, many more cases along the wall. You can see the lighted cases. Joe passed away a few years ago, but he left a trust to keep the museum going. The museum is in a trust. It's called the Joe Martin Foundation for Exceptional Engineering. And we have visitors here from all over the world.
Apparently, there is really no other museum like this in the U.S.
Not to my knowledge.
All right.
There is none in this country that is exactly what we have here. We have miniature engines, we have miniature airplanes, miniature boats. You name it, it's here. For the ladies, one thing that they really love is the miniature dollhouses.
I did see that.
There are some fantastic dollhouses here.
Yeah.
It's up to you what you would like to talk about. Let's talk about
Sure.
this P-40 right in the back of us here. This is a radio-controlled aircraft.
Oh.
Now, most people think you're flying it on the end of a wire. Yes, that was the beginning of them. That was wire control. This is radio control. There's a club over at the Oceanside Airport that actually manufactures these things, a business, I should say, And there are clubs that fly these out of Oceanside, out of Camp Pendleton.
I think we have one in Laguna Woods. It's called Kite Hill, and I see people up on Kite
Okay.
Hill with these amazing, just they're like works of art in themselves. When I think of all the time that's gone into them.
Oh, there's thousands of hours
Really?
that go into the building of these things. Over here in the cases, we have erector sets. Well, I don't even know if Erector makes them sets, makes these things anymore. But it's great to see families come in,
Sure.
and Grandpa, who might be in his 70s or 80s, points out to his grandkids or his great-grandkids, I had one of them when I was a
Right.
kid. I can remember building this, and I can remember building that. And, you know, and it's a great collection of erector sets. Along the wall over here, we have models. I have a particular interest in the one right there in the center, Plastic Aircraft Models by Bob Oliveri. He's a very good friend of mine. He's a retired Navy commander, and he builds aircraft, some of which are at the Naval Air Station Museum in
Gosh.
Coronado.
Really fascinating. And you have the most amazing shop over here, a machine shop. It reminds me in a way of a wood shop that we have in Laguna Woods. I mean, it is huge. And your machine shop is so, is that open to
Yes, yeah,
anyone
if
that
you'd like, we could take a walk through
belongs
there.
to the museum, or who can use it?
It's part of the museum, yeah.
All right.
Because I'm actually in the process of building a radial aircraft engine.
Ah,
And we started out with that years ago when I was volunteering here. I volunteered for about a year, and then when the fellow who was running the shop wanted to retire, they asked me if I would be interested in taking over the shop. So he and I started on this engine, and then I've continued working on it. Unfortunately, I don't get a lot of time to devote to it. I, have work on it when things are kind of quiet. Before the pandemic hit, we were very busy with. I was very busy, I should say, with doing lectures on how engines worked, how engines were built. You'd be amazed at the number of engine concepts that there are. I mean, everything. There's hundreds of them.
well, now, how does this work then? Do you have lectures where it's open to the public and people can
Yes,
come
we do.
and hear?
We do a lecture in the machine shop at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 2 o'clock
Every day?
every day.
Oh.
Right.
My
And
gosh.
and generally we accommodate 18 to 20 people at a time. They're invited into the shop in a designated area.
All right.
Because of insurance reasons, we do not allow people to walk around
I
in the
see.
shop because, let's face it, we're cutting metal and there's
Oh,
sharp objects around, and we
absolutely.
don't want people to
Sure.
pick something up and get injured. So,
So I'm thinking of some of the most popular items here. What would they be? Do you have a list of the top 10 or top 6 that people
well,
really enjoy?
I would say our number one item that people are first see when they come in, and it's vastly interesting, is the Duesenberg.
Oh, yes. How can you miss
the
it?
Duesenberg is a 1932 Duesenberg. The gentleman who built that actually went to the Duesenberg Museum in Germany, and what we call detailed drawings and sketches of Duesenberg that they have on display there, so he could replicate that exactly here. And I don't remember the number of hours he has in it. Actually built the engine. Everything on that Duesenberg works. If you
Really?
if you were a person about a foot high, you could jump in that car and you could drive it around.
What are some of the other items in the collection that?
Well, another one, and there's too many pieces to speak about
Sure.
specifically, but it is the Bert Peterson
Okay.
exhibit.
Yes.
Bert Peterson was a gentleman who lived up in Utah. Phenomenal craftsman. I mean, he not only made the stuff out of metal and other items, he made his own patterns. He made his own castings. Then he would do the machine work. some of this stuff is artsy, some of it's functional, some of it's comical. He had a great sense of humor.
So that's a permanent part of the collection.
That's a permanent part.
All right.
We have about, I believe it's about 1/3 of the items he ever
Oh,
created.
you're kidding. They're all here.
Another interesting display we have is right outside the machine shop over here. It's a display of miniature steam engines. And one engine in there in particular catches my eye, and people ask about it because it's a steam-powered aircraft engine.
Oh,
Now, people would ask,
Oh.
who in the world would put a steam engine on an airplane?
really?
Well, there were two brothers back in the 30s, the Bressler brothers, I believe their name was. They actually built a steam engine that was so efficient and so light it could be put into an aircraft. They flew it, I believe it was up in the San Francisco area. They flew that aircraft to demonstrate that steam engine. Now, a steam engine can be reversed just by changing the valve, the way the steam is fed into the engine. So he could actually taxi this aircraft, stop it, reverse the engine, and back the aircraft up.
So, Dave, thank you so much for this
You're quite welcome.
opportunity to discover this amazing collection.
Well, we hope to see your folks down here, and I'm sure they'll enjoy it.
I'm sure they would. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Bill, you can't beat this. So what are you up to now?
Now continuing our tour of Carlsbad, I'm here now at the Beach Plum Kitchen. Gracie, thank you. I know you're really busy here. Who came up with the name Beach Plum Kitchen?
Well, the owners, Grant and Jenny Gottsman.
Okay.
He is from the East Coast, and they wanted to bring a little bit of the East Coast to the West Coast.
What is a beach plum?
A beach plum is a fruit that grows only on the beaches on the East Coast,
Right, okay. So
and we make jam out of it.
oh, okay.
It actually is made back on the East Coast and distributed to us. So.
Okay. I find it unique. I'm just setting up here, and everybody's talking about the menu. What makes the menu so unique?
We're a scratch kitchen. Everything is made from scratch, fresh, every day. We don't even have a freezer.
Wow.
So we make our own pancake batters, waffle batters, salad dressings. We cure our own meats. We make our own jam.
Wow.
We make our own salsas.
What is there something that is the number one thing on a menu that somebody, Monday through Fridays, they're going to work, they're going to come and enjoy?
It's, everything is good. A lot of the favorites are the lemon ricotta pancakes.
As somebody had mentioned that on the cruise.
And we do, and just to be clear, we do breakfast and lunch all day long.
Gracie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very
Thank
much
you.
for this.
Thank you. I hope you bring some new people to us.